Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Harmony. I am a twin flame expert helping twin flames around the globe face fears, find freedom, and glow forward on fire. Today, I would like to welcome you to my Glow show. And the topic for today is to discuss the energy portal of the solstice of the 12/21 2017 gateway. This is being called the golden arch that I'm being shown, and I'll share more about that with you as we go through. But ultimately, what this portal is about us regaining from in a harmonic state of balance of the divine feminine and the divine masculine state of personal freedom. And that means that we're creating personal empowerment and that we're stepping up and rising up to be able to stay in our empowerment, not in ego, but from a place of heart that comes in and says, I am empowered. And so this week, I have personally been through so many challenges. And, I came off of some very high highs that even a week ago, I was saying it would take a lot to bring me down. Well, guess what? It has happened. It has shifted. I'm going to share with you some of my own revelations. Actually, this whole entire video came through in a collective manner based on my own awarenesses, my own challenges this week, as well as my people, everyone around me, all of my clients are going through these same scenarios. And I'm seeing that like a lot of the divine feminine are in a place of feeling disempowered. And one of the things is that it's creating a lot of confusion because it's like, why am I doing this again? Or why am I repeating this again? And I've been shown very clearly it's not a matter of repeating the old patterns. It's a manner of implementing the new templates and the new way of handling things. And as the divine feminine has set the bar high by stepping into these personal empowerment actions that we've been taking for a while. And now what is happening is we're being forced to face our fears so we can create that empowerment and bring it into form in a way that we're acting it out and actually implementing our new templates. And it is intense. And it's based on the alignment of the energy. It's based on the alignment of what's going on around that in a collective manner and on a huge cosmic scale of how we're funneling through what I'm calling the apex of the golden archway, and why it's almost like we're hitting that funnel of complete inner impaction at the exact intersection of having went in one direction and shifting into another direction. And it doesn't matter which way you turn, it's a matter of something is hitting you from one side or the other, and it's actually like the same situation, but coming from opposite ends and making you feel like, what the heck just happened? And, which way should I turn kind of feeling. And so I'll share more detail about that so it makes more sense to what I'm saying. But what this is ultimately doing for the divine feminine here, and then I'm going to share the opposite spectrum of how that's intersecting at the exact same apex with the divine masculine, is it's creating an aspect of recreation. Because, we ended at 12/21, 2012. We ended and entered from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, which was the end of the old ways, the end of destruction, and the end of the divine masculine hard ways of doing things, going into the age of Aquarius, which is the divine feminine way to approach things from the harmonic balance of restoring that feminine side within both the divine feminine and the divine masculine, which means that in order to restore that, the divine masculine within the divine feminine has had to be heal the wounds, and the same for the divine masculine. They have also had to heal their wounds so they can rise up in their own empowerment as well. And so as I said, now we're kind of coming together and merging the blending of that energy between not just us and ourselves, balancing our own divine masculine and our own divine feminine, but then the merger in that with our twin within and our beloveds within the merger of the divine masculine and the divine feminine energy. And then you plug that into the worldwide web of the entire collective energy in the planet for the collective as us as a whole. And then you put that into the cosmic realms. Everything is at an apex, and that's the intensity of what we're feeling. And so I want you to understand the magnitude of that and that it's real, and that I will outline for you from a very high place the big picture of what's happening, and hopefully in a concise way that it makes sense to you without getting bogged down too much by these little details of the exact precise degrees of planets and things like that. I want to stay at a higher place with this. I feel like that's what I bring to the table from my energy reports, and bring those into life and bring those into form in a way that you can implement that shift within your life so you can harmonically live out and ride out these storms, I should say. I've said this so many times. We're going in that vortex around and around, and we've gotten into the center of the vortex is why it's being shaken up. We've been there for a while. Now we've been sucked under. And, you know, in the process of that, it's like we're landing the plane and we're hitting the turbulent, rough energy as we're coming in, bringing it into form, because through this whole process on a big picture of energy, we have been going up in our ascension process since December 21st of 2012. And we've been going up in this enlightenment to go up to from the 3D up to the fifth dimensional energies, the planet, cosmic, collective. Everyone has been doing the same thing as we plug into this collectively. And then what we've been doing is activating that energy. And then now what we're doing is we're bringing that energy as it is in heaven, so it is in earth, and pulling it into form and coming back through. And that's what the arch is. And I'm going to share more about that, but it's like we went in one direction and now we're going back the same direction, but in reverse. Okay. And I've talked about this aspect in a number of ways before of how that reversal pattern goes one direction, comes another. It not only does it in the energy dimensions, that's also taken place in the rays of energy of the white light and the diamond light that we're bringing back down into form as we restore the oneness and complete wholeness within ourselves and the collective energy and in the cosmic energy. And even all of our entities are restoring back to the return of innocence, is what I've been shown this is, as that we're going back to the beginning of time in order to be able to create the oneness and restore that oneness from a place of harmonic balance, basically. And that is where I'm talking about this divine masculine and divine feminine energy is restoring. So kind of thinking back to the beginning of our soul's evolution, at the beginning of time, at the beginning of creation, being everything was one, and then through the destructive and recreative patterns, we went through these fragments, and we've moved that in one direction. Now what we're doing is we're bringing those fragments into wholeness again, and been returning back through that same pattern in opposite direction to restore the innocence at the beginning of time. Now, that's a really, really big picture of like what's happening on an energetic plane. But let's kind of talk that out now a little bit about how that affects more our third dimensional reality and us as humans, as a divine feminine and divine masculine. And then I want to kind of pick up from our 2012 ascension process up to a current report for you and how that kind of links in. So from the divine feminine, I said, is coming in this from a standpoint of recreating, basically, where the divine masculine, I said, had been in a destructive mode. So we have been freeing ourselves in order to regain personal empowerment. The divine feminine has already, like through this process, went through a rebirthing process, which I've mentioned. I've been shown through the 4 steps of ascension. I'm going to repeat that here so it kind of links into this, is the rebirthing aspect of returning and restoring to oneness within self. Okay, and that's the return to the authentic sacred self, back to the defragmenting of our personal soul, And that's going through our personal rebirth through the ascension aspect. That is actually what the divine masculine is experiencing right now. We as the divine feminine have picked up speed, and now we're going into the resurrection, which is, and actually some are going into the resurrection, some are coming out of the resurrection and have expanded and are moving into the rapture, which is stage 3. And so the resurrection is that expanded version of becoming from the king and queen to the god and goddesses, and the high priest to the high priestess. And that's expanding that range of kingship and queenhood to the divine masculine and divine feminine. And so through that power of that resurrection is us having healed those abandonment issues, or working on them at least, healing that rejection, betrayal, even at a place of, like, we've seen signs, and now some things that we're going through now is shifting it, like, where's the next sign? Where's the next sign? And the signs are moving away because we've been templated to pre-code ourselves to believe and trust in ourselves. So that's the point. You know, we've had to, as the divine feminine, to create a lot of self-forgiveness and learning how to really let go of being the fixer, and also, like, give back the divine masculine everything we have carried for them up to this point, from a standpoint of what we took on to think we had to kind of fix them and carry the load from an emotional, physical, like, even some physical, but really the emotional and the feelings and the energetic portions of carrying the load while they've been doing the work that they need to do to get through the rebirth. And so basically, that is forced us to give back to them now, being in a place of self-empowerment, giving back ownership of what the divine masculine owns now, so that the divine masculine can wake up to their own responsibility, their own accountability, their own action orientation from their self, not us trying to tell them what they need to do, which is what's been the history. And on so many levels now, like, looking at that from the divine masculine side, they have been in this process of clearing the destruction, as we, the divine feminine, has been doing the recreation in our expansion. And now they're being forced, because we're sort of dishing back that responsibility to them, they're being forced to own their own personal empowerment now, and which is pushing them through the rebirth to the connection of their own responsibility, of their own action for their own personal empowerment. And so what they've been doing in this destruction mode aspect is they have been clearing karmic partners. Those karmic partners had to come in order to really blast out a lot of codependencies from their side, but more the addictive personality. And a lot of the divine masculine has been emotionally emasculated by their mothers, and that is created an aspect of they don't know how to handle things emotionally. They don't know how to take action for their own thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and be able to construct and compile a way to express that from a place of expression from the heart, without, wanting to put it under the rug, because they didn't want to face those emotions. They've cut themselves off. Even within our divine feminine side, masculine of the divine feminine, I even personally have a very big history of cutting off that side of those, numbing that, and not knowing how to feel that. And I've been working on that consciously for 2 to 3 years, and was presented another opportunity to put into implementation and get to the heart of the matter just at this weekend, later in this weekend. And I'll share some of I'll share a little bit about how I came to these revelations, so you can see this in physical form, what I'm talking about from examples. But now what's happening is the divine masculine have been basically standing up in their empowerment and realizing they deserve more than the way that they've also been treated from this control of their divine karmic partners, that has sent them back to the mother, realizing that the mother had been in control of their thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and forcing them to like either shift or be shifted, meaning like cut umbilical cords personally, as far as like realizing I need this separation and this healing around my mother. And I'm seeing these in relationships this week happening on a huge scale of the divine masculine dealing with this. Some divine masculine around me personally, as well as every time I've brought this up to a client, they've had the same recollection of, you know, my divine masculine is having a fight with my mother. I'm having visions of how telling him in a vision how he you know, kind of like through the 5D energy, how he has like taken on all this clearing for the mother, and being able to needing to separate being the caretaker of mother in some aspects too. And so anyway, there's a lot of clearing going on of these mother separations this week at the very deep level. This is a very deep layer of the pain for the divine masculine that they're going through. But ultimately what it's doing is it's forcing them to stand alone. It's forcing their karmic partners are separated and left. Their mothers are like pulling back and or leaving, even potentially like the transitioning through earth. I'm kind of experiencing some with that too right now. And but these things are happening so that the divine masculine can also restore their own personal empowerment. And then at the end of the day, what all of this is doing as we go through this, like I said, the rebirth to the resurrection to then coming into the rapture. The rapture is a place where we're restoring the harmonic balance of perfect harmony within the divine masculine and the divine feminine energies. And that has been where we're in that the divine feminine has been carrying a lot of justice and this cause and effect, and having to stand in this impersonal empowerment and have these situations come up, forcing the introduction of these experiences to have to put into implementation those new templates and new ways to handle it and face those fears and do it from a place of justice, not ego. The divine masculine actually now is in that, helping to restore the harmony and the buffer that, and also in a way that they're not able to run any longer from their own responsibility and their own actions. They're being strategically placed in positions that they can't get out of, that's forcing them to have to handle the things they've ran from for a long time. And so ultimately, this harmonic balance and this rapture is creating the personal freedom. This is where the personal freedom is coming from, that we have to reach in this rapture, is what I'm being shown as the destiny of our vortex, of the energy of what we signed up for. It is a place of magic. It is what I've been shown to be the restoration of Avalon, and that being the golden city and a place of feminine energy and magic where we create from, and that everything that we've been waiting for is in that vortex. It is our destiny, and that's the rapture, which is reaping the rewards. So, and then the fourth part of that ascension technically would be the reunion, not just in the 5D, but in the 3D. The 5D energy has already been kind of coming into this reunion and creating that harmony within the energy. And now, like I said, as it is in heaven, so it is earth. We're pulling it through the vortexes back into earthly plane now. So let's now talk about a little bit more of how this aligns with the times of energy we're in, and this gateway and this portal of the 12/21 of 2017. And that in these energy times, we're entering this golden city, so to speak, the harmonic balance. And I'm being shown that that is the golden arch, and that the golden arch has kind of been going on like this whole cycle since 2012 through the ascension process. And it's also been going on an individual basis, and it's also been going on in the collective, and it's also going on in the cosmic. And so what I mean kind of by the gateway, and what that means, and like even as a cosmic cycle in this is kind of what I'm referring to. I've mentioned we have the cycles of self and the seasons of self. The cycles of self is repeating patterns. It feels like we're repeating patterns, and I refer to going around the Christmas tree towards our enlightenment. And every time we repeat a cycle or the same situation, we're seeing it from a higher state of being that is giving us more of a conscious awareness faster. It doesn't take as long to go around the cycle and repeat the process because we're getting it. But each time we're gaining higher perspective as we're going up. And here we are at Christmas time, and we're about to put the Christmas star on and become the bright and shining star to be able to, that North Star, to be able to direct the path home. And we're doing that on so many levels. We've been doing that as the divine feminine for the divine masculine. And now it's like the divine masculine is technically lighting their own tree and about to electrify their own self and about to put their own star on their own tree. And now we are basically going to have two trees with two stars that are coming together. And in this process of saying, through these cycles, though, we have in the seasons of self, and that is going through, the winter time of like the death, the springtime of the rebirth, the summertime of the growth, and the fall time of reflection. And so in the cosmic plane, what is happening, I already kind of mentioned this, but I'm going to recap it so you understand this. From December 21st of 2012 to December 21st today of 2017 has been a 5-year transition for this ascension process. We have done the rebirth, and it took enough of the divine feminine to go through the expansion to open the portal and the gateway of the enlightenment and the light in order to open that gateway for us to move through the resurrection, to move into the rapture of the golden city. And so other people are still following. And that's kind of how these 3 waves of different twins have been coming through this cycle in order to create this transition as we're awakening. And, in that cycle of these 3 phases, we've had, the old timers where they've been paving the pathway, 20, 30, 40 years. And, even in that range, like around that 10, 15-year range too, has been around a while in this process. They may not have even been consciously awakened to it, but they've been doing the work within their own dynamic of their twin flame dynamic. And then we have the second wavers that are more in around a 5-year time frame, maybe a little pushing into the 5 to 10. Everything's transition, but they've been the transitioners that have helped us transition between the kind of old patterns to some of these easier ways. And then we have like kind of the newbies and the ones that are coming through as the third wave that are really going to be entering the promised land first, and they do not have as much of the karmic past to clear. They're kind of coming in, waking up really quickly, transitioning really quickly, moving into union really quickly, and anchoring this light and love really quickly. And so that is like actually happening now, and that's where a lot of this reunion that's been taking place. And what I've been shown, the first phase of like some of this activation through 9/22 to 12/22 tomorrow, that I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about as well. There's been a lot of reunions going on in that time frame of the third waver twins, and we're kind of going to be following suit and closing up the pathways a little bit from, like I said, you move in one direction, you come back the other. So it's been the first waivers, the second waivers, the third. Then it's going to go like the third, the second, the fourth. So we've been doing this from a 3D to a 5D, going first wave, second wave, third wave. Now we're going to bring it into form opposite way. As it is in heaven, so it is in earth. We're going to be bringing in the third wave, the second wave, the first wave. And this is done on a collective motion. And this is the archway of that energy that I'm referring to. How all of these patterns work. So again, 2012, the 2017 has been this 5-year of transition through this ascension process. And that a gateway, a cosmic gateway within itself, has been that transition that I just mentioned. And inside of that has kind of been an archway of, through 2014, 2015, we had the tetrad of the 4 blood moons that was some really big, powerful energy. And then 2017 has been kind of coming in as the closure year, being the purging the fear pit and doing the downloading of all of this information, especially the beginning of this year has been doing the downloads. And I started seeing at the beginning of this year, there's more information on how I received this information. I'll share more in upcoming books and information. But at the beginning of this year, I was shown the return. This was the year of the return of Atlantis and the rise of Lemuria. The return of Atlantis being the divine masculine coming back, this, preparing to come back, really going through the rebirth. And that being also a state and a standpoint of the rise of Lemuria for the divine feminine, and then coming back through the kind of later half of this year, starting in the portal of what I was shown of 922 to 1222, is that restoration of Avalon, where we're preparing to enter the harmonic balance of the golden city and go back into that golden archway that starts tomorrow. And I'll explain that to you, what that means. So today is kind of like the end of the old ways. Tomorrow is like instantly the beginning of a new way and being in a harmonic balance. So of course it doesn't work exactly that way, but there's a way to, it does transition, but like ultimately from a timeline that is like some cutoffs of where things work. And so, I mentioned, as it is in heaven, so it is on earth, and going from the 3D to the 5D to 3D is what this has been about. And kind of just to recap that for the end of this year and leading up to this minute, what that I mentioned just now. Okay, so the 922 of 2017 to 1222 of 2017, we've been activating. So at the beginning of this year, up through the solar eclipse of the total eclipse of the heart, we've actually been downloading. That became the portal, then opened the gateway to the heart, cosmic heart, and the golden heart is what I've been showing, which is the Christ conscious heart. And then us being able to bring the love into form, in physical form, in 3D. So, now then we've started upgrading as of 922 to 1222 and activating all of the higher realm energy that we've been downloading all year. And then from 1212 of 2017 to 1221 of 2017 has been its own little gateway, its own little portal that's been the divine feminine has kind of reached her balance and being forced to implement things by the 1212 portal. And then the divine masculine's entering here at the 1221 portal of being closure of all the old ways. And then together this merger is creating harmonic balance. Now, before I go on to 2018 and how that looks going forward, I kind of want to share with you like some numbers that I've been shown, because not only have I been tracking this energy on multiple levels of a lot of different things, I was shown these number patterns. And I was shown like back at the beginning of the year when this was happening, that the number 7, when we reached this portal, when we reached this time, and I didn't even see it was dots until now I see the big picture. But what has happened is the number 7 really represents this balance of self, this personal freedom of self, this merger of self, this really harmonic balance of this divine masculine, divine feminine, and same for the divine feminine, masculine. So 7 really I was being shown that a number 7 for the divine feminine was kind of reaching that completion of their sort of rebirth, coming into the oneness of self. And another 7 for the divine masculine is doing the same. And that those two 7s come together and create a number 14, which is merger of that. And if you take a 1 and a 4, a 14, and put that together, that's 5, and that creates magic. 5 is a magic number. And so if you take 12/12 of 2017 and add up those numbers, it's a 7 number. If you take 12/21 of 2017 and add that up, it's a 7 number. Merging them together now brings the 14. And then in addition to that, I want to say that when I went to, and I'm going to put a link here if you've not watched my videos about the restoration of Avalon from South America and the Golden City and all of those aspects. I'm going to have a link somewhere to here, like that you can access that. I would highly recommend it, because basically everything I was being shown, even up through the 1111 portal, came a real story there that kind of is another way of like marking my exact vision of this Golden City, including down to the numbers. And that, you know, the legend of El Dorado was in the Golden City was that he had to spend 7 years with the Divine Mother to learn all of her ways, and then spend 7 years with the Divine Masculine, the Father, and spend 7 years for himself to then learn how to basically become a man. And then he had to spend 9 years in a cave by himself in order to balance those two energetic aspects of himself, and to heal and ultimately heal and restore the sacred sexuality within self, and do it from a standpoint of creating personal empowerment, and to not be wavered by old patterns and old ways and things like, you know, he was, even when he came out of the 9 years, he was taken to the middle of that lagoon there in Guatavita, and he was, you know, wrapped in honey and gold, and was given gifts of gold, and that's why they're calling this the Gold City. And he had to be presented by women, and you know, that were naked, in order for him to show the test and pass the test, that he could withstand his empowerment and not be like tempted to the lower ways of sexuality from a negative standpoint of self-desire. That's exactly what our divine masculine has been going through. And so again, if you have not watched those videos with that story, please do so. It's so powerful. So now I want to just for a minute talk about how that also leads into the 12/22 of 17 portal, which is tomorrow. And so basically I was shown that that was the portal for this merger of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, two whole and complete kind of energies coming into merger together, not just in the 5D anymore, but pulling it in from the 5D, meaning you were merged in the 5D by then, but then now pulling that into physical form and creating harmony and justice in the process. And if you take the number 12, 22, and 17 for, you know, the 2017, but if you take 12, 22, and the 2017, 2017 is a 1 number. So ultimately what that boils down is to 12, 22, 1. If you take that and break that apart into ones, it's 8 ones, which is technically 11, 11 twice. But when you merge all those ones together, you have 8, which is the infinity, which is perfect harmonic balance, which is what we're doing in now with our twin flame unions, coming into harmonic balance and creating and restoring the 8 of harmony and that energy of harmonic balance. That's the portal of the archway of going into 2018 with the new ways, the new way to implement things, the new way, which I said is the restoration of Avalon, And that's the restoration of the harmonic balance, the divine feminine, the divine masculine. And meaning we, right now in this energy that we're going through is forcing us to heal the wound of the divine masculine, the womb of the divine feminine, in order to create sacred sexuality to create. But ultimately, to do that, the woman has used her womb, her sexual power, and her sacral energy to create this whole time from a masculine way. And she's had to heal that divine masculine from within to learn how to now let go of that old way of creating from that lower self, basically, is what I'm saying. And to connect to her sacred sexuality, becoming the goddess, and open up the higher self and pull in the higher self energy to now recreate from the newer way, and to recreate and from the higher self, basically. And then in doing this, that's been healing the divine masculine within the divine feminine, but restoring the divine feminine and healing her sacred sexuality, which I've been shown a lot's been happening with this goddess energy I've been seeing and feeling with Isis coming through, helping to heal from the temples of Isis and helping to heal like the wounded femme in this process. And in the divine masculine, Metatron keeps showing up as to helping to heal the lower self, and he's the, deals with the golden pyramidal shower of the golden pyramidal energies to restore. I just actually learned through a session yesterday with a client that this book that came out, that I happened to see this, that Metatron, which is also the golden archangel, he is the gatekeeper between the higher self and the lower self, and helps us bring this energy into form from the higher self to the lower self. So two very powerful players in this time frame of this energy to help us is Isis and Archangel Metatron. So if you're connecting to your guides or those sort of things, try to keep that in mind and use those entities to help you transition through this process as you're healing these things and you're dealing with these things right now. Because what this energy is doing right now, it's forcing us back through these same cycles again to reface things from the deepest layer of our pit here. And we're at the apex of the energy and we don't know which side we're getting hit by, like I said. And it's forcing us to use the new way, not the old way, but then ultimately to realize that the most important way to choose direction or decisions is based on, is it taking your power or giving you power? Not from the head anymore, but from the heart. And discernment of knowing that you're either being robbed of your personal empowerment and you need to step back up and voice your voice to feel empowered, or is it disempowering you, and do you need to shift that energy to make a different choice or different decision? However, no, at the end of the day, I saw this saying online when I was going through some of this stuff this week, that's basically said, you can't F it up, basically, because if it's destiny, you can't F it up. So basically, you cannot screw it up if it's your destiny. And I saw this on another twin flame person that I know that does also readings in energy, and I saw that and I told her, I said, wow, like, I really thank you. I needed that at this moment. She's like, so did I. So thank you, Debbie, if you see this. That came through for me at a very perfect time, and now I'm paying that forward for others because it's so, so true, because it's like being blindsided by which direction do I turn. There is no wrong direction. It's a manner of staying in the empowerment of what works right at the moment and what gives me my empowerment at the moment. And I've been having, again, clients in these scenarios of having to make these choices and decisions based on exactly what I'm telling you, including some friends of mine around me are having to do the same. And then I was hit by the same thing this week, as like I said. So now, going into 2018 with this restoration of Avalon and this feminine energy being actually in the 3D, and the merger of twins in 3D with that portal tomorrow of perfect harmonic balance and justice and freedom, harmony and justice creating personal freedom. I mentioned that from 9/22 to 12/22 2017, that in that time frame we were activating and upgrading from the downloads that we had been taking all year. Now in 12/22 going through February 22nd, we're actually working that light. So we've been downloading light, activating light. Going into the new year, we're going to be working that light, which is creating greater expansion for everyone. And then from February 22nd of 2018 to May 22nd of 2018, we're going to be living it. It's going to be bringing into form. It's going to be like a powerful flush through. Does this mean it's everybody? No, this is in waves. I had somebody tell me recently that said that there's no way we could possibly bring all twin flames into form at the same time, because the earth would explode, and because it would be too much energy and too much power all at once. So I thought that was kind of cute, but has some validity to this. But it's the transitional phases here that, kind of we're talking about. So, all right. So now, with that being said, I kind of want to give you some, a little bit of, well, first I want to share with you a little diagram I did, and then I want to give you a little bit of real live scenarios that kind of I've been approached with personally. That's been my week to help you understand, where, like, some ideas of what's happening out there. So this here, and as a lot of you have heard me say, this is St. Louis Arch, and I've been in the gateway, the heartland of the United States, and I've been visiting a lot of the heart country, the heart chakra of the countries, the heart chakra of cities, and I keep ending up in these places that have been the heart chakras as I'm doing these energy activations and these portal activations in order to harmonize this energy that's restoring this. And it's some of my work that I'm being shown on such a huge scale collectively, and with my mission of being an energy healer of 20 years. And so my quantum physics background really, like, I understand this nature and, the chiropractic aspect of the energies. I've been doing this. I didn't know I was in preparation for 20 something years, but I am a leader. I'm a Leo, but I also am a forward leader. And I realized that, a long time ago, that if I'm going to be out talking the talk, I had to walk the walk. And that means even this week, with what I've had to go through, I've done it in an aspect from a higher self plane that no matter how my lower self feels, I have to show up to feed the children, kind of, so to speak. Okay. And I'm doing that from a place of love, and I'm doing it from a place of stepping out of my own hell in order to show up and to help others light the pathway, and to be able to pave that way to make the future brighter. And that's what a twin flame does. That's what, I signed up to do. And I do it without, any, like, I would rather be here, like, just even being here and sharing with you is helping to transmute my situation. Because I can promise you, I'm in a situation right now that I just as soon maybe crawl in bed, cover up my head, and not go on with my day and shut out the world and have myself a little pity party. And I would deserve it. If I did that, I would deserve it. And, with no hesitation. But instead, I'm showing up, as I always say. And I know that somewhere deep inside, it's going to help me feel better. But in the harmonic balance of that, I know that somewhere deep inside of somebody else, they're going to relate to this week. And it's going to make them feel better. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I also know that some things that I'm here to rectify from my past lives, and I know that I took on a big mission, and I did it chose it, and therefore I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to show up in empowerment and realize that I have a human side of me that has a tolerance. But it's learning to trust this process, and that everything's in divine order, and that I'm being sent straight back to the basics, just like everyone else. And to trust myself, my guidance, the process, and divine order. And as hard as it can be, and I know as hard as that can be, we have to not let the behavior of others rob and destroy us of our inner peace and happiness. The Dalai Lama. And so back to this, in this, what this is representation of the golden archway of saying of how the energy is coming in, and it's, as it is in heaven, so it is on earth, but this is three-dimensional and multi-planes, physical, emotional, spiritual, energetic, and mental, and also astral and etheric. And so when we're having this happen, we're going through all these planes, and with this really big purge that we're purging in this portal that's been coming from 1212 to 1221, we're seeing a lot of physical ailments right now and physical purges, because that's how we're purging on this level of all layers and in every dimension and every plane of our being. So these things are happening all over. So this is a representation of what I'm about to tell you is a representation of our personal self, us with our beloved, and then collectively, and then cosmically. And so with that being said, then, we're bringing in the divine balance of the divine masculine and feminine coming through, creating these vortexes of energy that's intersecting basically at the heart, and then restoring the broken heart, creating the golden heart of the Christ consciousness, restoring the masculine and the feminine, the higher self, the lower self, and then intersecting at the heart and sending that love out. And this would be where we're at through this portal of ending the old ways. If you were really to put a timeline on it, tomorrow is where this infinity intersects and becomes balanced. So we've been setting ourselves up through this portal to come in from two hearts, creating one. And that's what we're doing. And we're restoring the oneness of that heart. And now we're sending that energy out into the fields and the ley lines and the grids and anchoring that love in. And that's why so many twin flames have been traveling. But the restoring the harmony and the justice here, creating oneness of the full cycle of infinity and sending that love out into the universe. And that's what twin flames stand up to do. And that's what the portal of 1222 tomorrow is, to have this actively in physical form. Okay, so now basically I'm just going to say this on a really high note, on a really high plane here. I kind of started out my week revisiting some old things that have not showed up in my life in a long time. For instance, my daughter had some personal situation and personal crisis going on that came through that stirred up a lot of my history and past of like some of the relationship stuff with her that I've been trying to heal for a whole life, but especially over the last 3 years, creating basically a much deeper relationship and healing the karmic past, and being able to do it, from a place of total love and acceptance and no judgment and all of these pieces. And there was some recreation of like her past that kind of got presented to me, and it was at this really high, and it gave me this feeling of, wow, every time I hit these highs, here comes her lows, and here I am feeling like I'm being pulled back down into this chaos, so to speak, that I avoid chaos. And I had went to my youngest twin flame facilitator, not the one I wrote about in the book, but one that's been in my life for 3 years, on a place of, helping each other with our missions. And basically, he had been trying to take me through a regression process of a program he's working on for himself in order to implement with his clients. And so he had been wanting to test this on me or do this with me, and it just wasn't aligning, and it lined up perfectly. And he took me to the heart of that situation. And one of the things he shared with me, it's not about her being, me taking on her emotions or having to feel her, own her emotions, which I knew that. But in a way, what really hit home to me was, he mentioned if she lost a balloon and she was a little child crying, and she was on her knee, and basically, she was on her knees crying, and I ran across this little child crying. Would I be able to kneel down and cry with that little child and be able to feel that little child and take on and clear some of that pain for that little child without owning it? And what I realized, that the void in myself of cutting off the bad side of myself, of feeling the bad stuff and cutting that off and being so numb, I didn't even know how to relate because I didn't know how to feel those things. And to be able to see that she's technically healing my wound of being numb and helping me feel the negative aspects and realizing it takes the duality I talk about at both sides to have the completion of the whole aspects. And so it was a very beautiful ceremony thing with him, and very beautiful. And so thank you, Cody. I appreciate that. I can't more than words can say, because it was something I'd been trying to reach that space, I think, and it was just the one little click that reached that space for years. And to realize what the mirror back was of, because I would be like, I don't understand what my part is. I don't understand what my part is. I'm willing to do it, but I don't understand what my part is. And I got it. And then, so I transmuted that very, very quickly. And I also know that going forward, that relationship is going to continue to flourish and nourish and be beautiful. And it already is. And in addition to that, then I've been put in this situation to have to stand in my empowerment. And the situation is at a place of putting me at a risk in one of the, like, in a space that I've not even willingly or choosingly or whatever have been forced to be in a risk of really potentially causing some damage or issues with something very near and dear to me. And this return and restoration of my own Avalon, my champ Avalon, coming home. And basically, the scenario has created an issue where I've had to stand in my own empowerment, but I wasn't sure if it was a standpoint if I was supposed to let go and surrender. So in this vortex, when we're in this vortex, it's like, was I supposed to surrender and let go? Or was I supposed to be in empowerment? And really, there are no wrong choices. It's a matter of us being hit by both sides, because if the apex, we go up one side, down the other, and we're in this vortex of energy that's forcing us to experience both sides. Both sides are right. So it's like, even in one aspect in the scenario, I was being shown I had to be open to receive. And the other aspect of it, I was then being shown that I had to not only had been open to receive, but then turn around and in a situation that's out of control and divine order of interaction with someone else that is out of their control to some degree, not being able to address certain things. And then with that being said, then I was still being able to be that damsel in distress of being put in a situation of kind of a semi-crisis with it and needing help, but feeling the abandonment and feeling some betrayal in some part of it, and feeling that I was being forced to speak up no matter what the other person's situation is, and knowing that I don't have to own that for the divine masculine any longer, because I was able to realize that it's time for the divine masculine to stop running for themselves, and that they have to take some ownership and some accountability, and to be able to hold my empowerment by reflecting back the ownership of basically your own stuff. And then, with that being said, then taking a step into empowerment to correct a situation, to then kind of be redirected to an aspect of, well, you got personal empowerment for that, but it's divine order that you don't really even get out of the situation. You're just in it, and you have to trust it, and you have to let the chips fall where they may now, and that you are at a place that you really are back to no control. And, and then to be in a situation where you already feel like somebody's walking all over you, and somebody's robbing you of your rights, and somebody's taking all these things away from you, and to be forced of being out of control and having to surrender and walking this process and knowing there's trust and, reliving everything again and just on and on. It's being forced to do just what I said. Relive the abandonment, the rejection, betrayal, knowing that, technically there are no signs, that I have to trust myself, knowing that I have to forgive myself for maybe even having made a choice that really there was no wrong choice, because both choices that I even came up to, it was supposed to happen exactly as it did. And that even in the middle of it, I had to then create and try to step into making other choices that gave me empowerment, that pointed me back to the same situation. So, divine timing, divine timing. And I would tell you, it's so intense. It's an intense situation. It's really intense situation. And what it would tell you is, I was saying to, a friend that's turned out to be saying a lot lately is like, like, who the hell does this shit happen to? And then I'm like, oh, I forgot. We're in Twin Flame Candyland. That only happens in Twin Flame Candyland. We're on chutes and ladders and we're playing hoops here and, all the stuff that, only it doesn't happen in Twin Flame Candyland, right? Here's the human side coming out to say, well, that was my pity party talking about Twin Flame Candyland, right? So anyway, and then with that, I want to share with you kind of just another little scenario of how this divine mothership and divine masculine having to be set in empowerment. And in some ways, this is coming from the flip side to me. I've had a thing with my son this week too. And he was coming for Christmas and he wasn't. And my brother was going to Florida and he wasn't. And I was going to Florida with my brother, but then he's not. So then my son was coming for Christmas, but then he's coming the day after. And in the mix of this, I'm caught in their like shuffle. It's not that I even care which way it falls, but just tell me so I can align my plans, right? And so I say to my son, and here we are, I want to say that. So there's so much pressure put on the divine masculine right now about where they show up for Christmas, right? And so I've never been that person to do that because I've saw that done so many times. And I know that it's about balance. It's really not about what day you celebrate Christmas. It's just about being together and it's just another day. And don't hold on to all the, oh my God, you got to be here at Christmas and that sort of thing. So my son, though, was coming the day after Christmas. That then was later in the day. So I was going to see some patients later in the day that I'm like, okay, well, if you're coming later in the day, I'll move them to earlier in the day. And if you're only going to be here that one next day, I have my clients that day, but I can move them to the next day and I'll have all day to spend with you. And that's when we'll spend our Christmas. And then I even said to him very plainly, and talking about accountability and responsibility here, like I said to him, I need to know for sure if this is your plans before I move all of my schedule around to be available to spend my, this time frame of Christmas with you. And you confirm that and get back to me. He got back, said, totally fine, totally cool. Because if I wasn't going to be available, he wasn't necessarily going to come. I said, okay, well then I will move my schedule. So I moved my schedule and literally just got it kind of completed, moved, corrected. And then I get a phone call from him last night that says, oops, I scheduled to work on one of those days, the day after Christmas, and he works nights, which means it would put him into the next day of the day he was going to be here all day of not being available, which means then he had to go back to work and means he's not even coming for Christmas. And so, here's my divine feminine. First of all, I'm not the mother saying you have to be here, like that separation, but a mother-son issue here. And in my point, it's the opposite of. It's like you need to take some accountability and responsibility and respect for other people's circumstances and situations. I specifically asked you if this was going to be something that you could comply to before I disrupted my schedule. So, and it's really one of the big scheme of things, no big deal, but yet it is. This is empowerment. I've been put in a place of empowerment this week. So I said to him, I understand that you can't correct this now. I understand that you made a mistake, but understand that your choices affect other people. And that's why I specifically asked you up front. So in the future, I'd appreciate it if you would really do some research and confirmation before, take some ownership, is how I put it to him. So in some ways, I'm teaching my son from the positive standpoint for how he should treat a divine feminine, right? That's how we should be as mothers, not the aspect that we're saying we need you in our codependency and we're going to rob you of your masculine, we need to be building these masculine up that way. But to do it, we got to stand in our empowerment, right? So, I could have been just, oh, okay, and probably, or felt sorry because now I don't even get to see you for Christmas at all, because he lives out of town. So no, This is empowerment. So remember, there are no wrong choices, and it's all destiny, so you cannot screw it up. And that, at the end of the day, all you have to do is do what empowers you, and you're doing the right thing. And we're flipping through this apex, and we're going to be going in and bringing this in form. It's going to be so beautiful. And so we did this Isis reading of these cards. I just want to quickly show you. So basically what we're doing right now in this portal is we are creating a burial for freedom. So it's a proper burial for freedom. We're letting go of the past so that we can create the personal freedom. How awesome does this fit in? And in doing so, the divine feminine is creating a portal of light in order to be able to spread her wings, golden wings, and fly forward facing her fears so that she can stand in her own empowerment, give back to the divine masculine so he can become the rising sun, like my rising sun I just mentioned, so that he can stand in his own empowerment to step up to the plate and take accountability for his own actions. And that's our job as the divine feminine here. And in order to do this, it is helping to tip the scale of the balance. We're creating the harmonic balance between the masculine and the feminine of both ourselves, our beloveds, the collective, the worldwide web, and the cosmic. We're in harmonic balance. And then as that's doing so, how do we stay in balance? How do we stay in balance? This is the key. So we stay true to our truth and we be in our power. So stay true and be in your power is what Isis is saying. And wrap her golden wings around you in this empowerment and fly forward on fire. So, okay, so instead of I glow forward on fire, we're flying forward on fire, okay? All right, so make sure you like, comment, share the shine. This is my last video before Christmas. Most likely, I'm sure it will be. So may you have a beautiful, beautiful Christmas. Enjoy it. Stay in your empowerment with it. Don't let others during the season rob you of that empowerment. And so, may you fly forward on fire, face your fears, and much love to you and many blessings. Namaste.